Two episodes. I mean, had the show have continued in production, I think it probably would have still been in production today. But you know, 32 1 hours, it's quite a lot of shows.
Right. Just seems like hundreds because we see them so often. Let's talk about the puppets. There they are. We've got Parker and Lady Penelope there, and another one which we'll talk about in a moment. But why were the features so exaggerated, Jerry?
Well, we've got three puppets here. And first of all, Parker, which everybody will recognise, he had a very large head in order to accommodate the automatic mouth movement. Mrs. Appleby, sitting on the other side, she was from a later series where electronics were being miniaturised, and so she has a normal size head. And in the middle, Penelope is a stage puppet, so very much larger.
Yeah, so as technology developed, then the puppets became more humanoid, a la Captain Scarlet or things like that.
Which wasn't necessarily a good idea, by the way, because the more realistic they became, the more difficult they became to animate.
Yeah.
And if you've got a caricature, it's much easier to accept the fact that they don't walk and move properly. At the moment that they become very realistic, you also expect them to behave realistically, so the animation was much more difficult.
That's a fair point. I actually never thought about that before. Now, David Graham, you were the voice behind so many of these characters, Parker included, and dare I say it, but there's a bit of a similarity there. There's a bit of a resemblance.
Do you think so? I thought his uterus was a bit bigger than mine. Don't you think so? Yes.
Was he based on you?
No, he wasn't, but he's based on a character that Jerry dug up in a restaurant in Cookham, which was near the studio where the films were made, and he says, there's a waiter there who I think might form the basis of the voice of Parker. So we went out to lunch one day and we got him over, and he said, would you like to see the Wendy's, sir? And it turned out that he'd formerly worked in the royal household at Windsor, and we got him going. He said, yes, sir, the Duke of Windsor, you do. It's a good bloke, you do. It's a real gent. They don't make them like that anymore. So I went back a few times and heard this chap, and he really formed the basis of the character, but then we expanded it. And, you know,
and then, Christine, it was your job to put all this together and actually operate these puppets.
That's right, yes.
How difficult was that?
Oh, it was very difficult.
Because we've got some stills of you people in operation here, so we have, which we can see, and you had to dangle from all sorts of heights to do all sorts of things, from scaffolding and whatever. There you are operating. Look at that for a position. I wonder, is that you?
No, it isn't, in fact.
Well, let's see Parker in operation there, because you've got a bigger, mocked-up version.
Well, this is a
Parker
stage
here.
puppet.
Now, when we say stage puppet here, Jerry, of course, the revival's not only in the video, but there is a stage show in the West End as well.
Yes, there's a stage show going on at the Apollo Theatre, which is starting September the 11th. It's not a puppet show, but Parker and Penelope are making a sort of little guest appearance. But I don't want people to think it's a puppet show. It's two artists presenting their own show, very clever, very funny. But I think it'll be lovely when these two just do their 1 minute
But I tell you, Christine, I'm looking at the amount of strings and hooks and goodness knows what you have to operate here. It must have been physically very tiring and demanding for you.
Well, yes, it was. I mean, in fact, we did have a leaning rail that did used to take quite a lot of the strain off our back.
Yeah.
But yes, no puppeteering is an easy job. It always is very tiring. It's painful in some way or another, you know.
Yeah.
But it was rather interesting about the small heads and the big heads. The fact that the big heads were heavier because they got all the what we used to call the gubbins in it, made it heavy. You could swing the head round. When we had the smaller puppets like this one,
who incidentally was based on your mother.
Yes, that one's based on my mother. The weight was in the body, and the heads were almost impossible to turn.
Yeah. Let's get Parker to camera here. Just point him at that camera there, camera 5, and we'll get David to do wee voice here for him, just here on the garden party.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to be starring in this edition of the garden party. To come up out of retirement to chat you blokes up for a little while.
It's great stuff. It's great stuff. And so the other thing, Karen, you're standing watching all this, but I'm looking at Lady Penelope there, and there's a bit of a resemblance. Hey?
I think
The
it must
big
be
eyes
the
and
amount
the
of lipstick we
blonde
both got
hair
on.
and all that sort of thing. But it's
They're
great.
fabulous, aren't they?
Yeah, it's just fascinating to see them all here, and thanks very much for coming along today and giving us a bit of an insight to it all, folks. But we're back again tomorrow.
And it is the very last programme of the series. Mandy Rice-Davis will be here. What else will we be doing?
Yeah, we'll also be talking about the Loch Ness Monster, and it will all be FAB, dare I say. See you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.